Hello and welcome to an all-new DC cast, Explosion Network's hub for discussing all things DC Comics related. Let's talk about everything happening in Metropolis, Gotham, and beyond. I'm your host, Ash Helbing. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Happy to be here talking about Lois and Clark.
No, we already did Lois and Clark. This is Superman and Lois.
Oh, Clark and
about today.
Superman and Lois. Right. Gotcha.
Yes. We are talking about the latest Superman TV series, Superman and Lois, which is obviously recently ran on the CW in the States before being cancelled to make way. It kind of got cancelled to make way for Superman. The new Superman that's coming out.
I mean, they wrapped it up though, right?
They wrapped it up, but fans of the show felt like it could have continued.
I mean, did you watch it all the way through? Or?
No. I feel it. You hadn't watched it prior to this, right?
I watched the pilot before.
Okay. I feel like I watched maybe half the first season.
Okay. Yeah.
That was kind of it.
It was the first episode when it dropped, and then never watched more. Not because I hated it, but just because I couldn't.
Just time and it's commitment
to watching it. Yeah. To be honest, so yeah.
Yeah. So, so interesting facts. Obviously, stars Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch as Superman and Lois Lane, who previously appeared throughout the Arrowverse, primarily in Supergirl. This show is not part of the Arrowverse. It originally was conceived to be part of the Arrowverse, but then halfway through the season, they're like, let's just make this a separate universe. You know?
Yeah, I was confused. Like, when I wasn't paying attention, and then I start seeing news stories like that pop up, like, oh, this confirmed other people. I was like, did we ever actually I didn't think that it was ever really part of the Arrowverse.
Yeah, but I mean, those actors had performed in the.
They had performed,
so
but, yeah,
I think that's why people will naturally believe, and it's set on the same network and all that kind of stuff. So I think there was an actual inclination to believe that's what the idea was behind it. So, but yeah, let's talk about it. Please be aware we'll be free. So we both watched the first two episodes for this watch. Yeah. So please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the first two episodes of Superman and Lois. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. With that said, let's dive in to talking about Superman and Lois.
When we were dreaming about having a family, it didn't look like this, did it? Lost jobs, teens with severe anxiety, parents gone too soon.
Why'd you move the family here? Still looking for the simple life? Because those days are gone, Clark. Long gone.
You got the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Really wish I could get drunk sometimes. You're saying you're Superman?
Well, we've seen Superman before. We've seen him.
Am I a bad father?
We're gonna be all right. No one ever dreams about the problems, but every life has them. Even the extraordinary ones.
Developed by Berlanti and Todd Helbing, starring Tyler Hoechlin, Elizabeth Tulloch, Jordan Elsass, Alex Garfin, Erik Valdez, Inde, Navarrette, Wolé Parks, Adam Rayner, Dylan Walsh, and Emmanuelle Chriqui. Dylan, what are your thoughts on Superman and Lois?
Yeah, I mean, I remember enjoying the pilot. I enjoyed it again. I think especially the first 10 minutes of the pilot's pretty much it's like a antithesis to Man of Steel, Superman that everyone hates. Almost done purposely, I think. I think both. I think having a Superman story set so far into his career was more exciting than more of the origin story things. Superman with the family's a very interesting thing that we haven't seen outside of the comic books. So straight away, it just sets up these interesting dynamics. I will say across the first two episodes, now having watched about 4 or 5 years later, I've now watched 2 episodes.
Yep.
I do think the villain is less interesting than the family dynamics, and I understand that. I think the family dynamics is supposed to be the still the forefront thing,
The
but
core.
like it just every time it sort of jumps away to more Superman-y things, I was finding it a lot less interesting. Not, I will say, like, it looks good, like all the special effects and everything like that looks good in it. But yeah, in a villain and that just wasn't engaging for me. So
No, yeah. I think it is a really fantastic portrayal of Superman, and like especially this first episode is like super heartfelt, and impactful, and obviously a very different look at Superman, an older Superman, which juxtaposed to our last TV show, Smallville, where it's a younger, a younger Superman, despite spending 10 years with him.
you can nearly feel like these like could nearly connect to Smallville.
Nearly, like, add a couple extra years in between, well, I guess 16 years in between to let these kids grow up, I think, it definitely is interesting, like, tackling the idea of Superman having children and, like, the responsibility that it has both to the world and then to his family, and, like, what takes priority in that kind of conflict, especially for a character, is so invulnerable to an extent, is super strong, and, like, you can't beat him in a one-on-one fist fight. Like, you have to have another way around him. So dealing with that element, I think, is really interesting, and, like, the idea of Superman having kids is like a more recent phenomenon, at least in the comics as well. So, yeah, I think that's all really cool. I think the score in this is really fantastic. It's all the main theme is really powerful and impactful each time it pops in, which was something I noticed. It's really interesting just going back to Smallville, I guess, and, like, what is a small town like in 2020s? What's it like to live there now? On the cusp of the new, where major cities are like ahead of the times, but Smallville's just a little bit back. I enjoy the two brothers. I think they're quite different enough that it's enjoyable to
emo jock
watch emo jock, to see things play out. And I think the mystery is set up in the first episode of which brother is the one that's going to have powers is well done until the eventual reveal. So, all right, let's dive into this episode a little bit more. These are, admittedly, these Wikipedia articles, reviews are not that in depth. So
Wikipedia letting us down.
Yeah.
Not the number one source anymore.
Not for TV synopsis, so we do have the pilot, directed by Lee Toland Krieger, teleplay by Todd Helbing, story by Greg Berlanti and Todd Helbing. Originally debuted February 23, 2021. The Daily Planet has been bought out by Edge Ennekolp. After losing his job and mother on the same day, Clark attends her funeral in Smallville with his wife Lois Lane and their twin teenage sons, Jonathan and Jordan. There he reunites with Lana Lang and her husband Kyle Cushing, while his son befriends her daughter Sarah. While the twins mysteriously survive what should have been a fatal accident, the adults begin to suspect that Edge's Ennekorp's CEO, Morgan Edge, also responsible for Clark's dismissal, has nefarious plans for Smallville. Jumping over a lot here. I think, like, the loss of Martha at this very start of the show. Yeah. Fucking hell. Control yourself.
Sorry, just
I think
over.
super impactful and like hits you right in the heartstrings straight away. Which is pretty impressive for a pilot episode.
Really good performance, I think, from Tyler, whatever.
Ocean, yeah. And just the willingness to, like, blow his identity, I guess, straight away. He suddenly appears at the house, despite the doctor.
It's like, how'd you just? There.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm here.
Yeah, and just kind of the episode being about all the stories about what Martha would do for all the people around them.
She was a good egg.
You're seeing all those traits. Seeing all those traits in Superman, as you would expect. And yes, we're clearly setting up one of the antagonists of the season, Morgan Edge, who is some sort of Lex Luthor fill-in business person who seems to have some sort of goal with Smallville. Buying up farms, buying up banks, promising alternative energy jobs.
I didn't know. I
then
didn't
we
know.
also
I didn't know
saw-
anything about this character. I googled him after watching. Do you know anything about this character from comic books?
No, not really.
So he apparently is the leader of Intergang.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
Of course, Intergang, like a
Apocalypse. I don't know. Group from Apocalypse.
no. I mean, Intergang's like the big, like international criminal syndicate. I guess would be the easiest way to think of it, in my mind, at least. So, I'm trying to think of a Marvel Comics equivalent. They're the Hydra equivalent, I think, but maybe not as Nazi coded.
Yes, I have no idea if he appears as the same version in the show, but
I don't believe so. So, even to the extent where they had a different actor portray him in Supergirl.
He was apparently, though, I'm looking it up now. Morgan Edge appears in Smallville, according to Wikipedia. Initially portrayed by Rutger Hauer. There you go.
That's crazy.
This version is a Metropolis crime lord and old friend of Lionel Luthor. There you go. Didn't know that. Apparently he's in the third season of Supergirl as well.
Yes. And reading the Wikipedia article here, it seems like this version of
I just got down
there.
there. Yeah, I just got further down. I was like, oh, we're doing spoiler free for this, but yeah, okay. I just
yeah. So
okay.
Clark's sons discover his spaceship, so he reveals that he is Superman, and that at least one of them must have inherited his powers to have survived those pipes falling on them.
Yep.
Bold way to show off that he is actually Superman. Lift up the truck, fly up in the sky. And then for them to get upset about him keeping the secret this entire time, I think is interesting. It's such a crazy situation, or revealing you're a massive superhero and that's the reason you've been disappeared this entire time. All that kind of stuff. I think it's also funny that obviously they're in this episode. Jordan is playing Mortal Kombat versus
DC. He's like, DC looks alright. This is like Superman sucks.
No, I'm not playing Superman. I'm beating him up.
Yeah.
Superman's boring.
On you, bro.
Which is weird. Like how they get the licensing for Superman in that world. You know what I mean? And is it Injustice Superman? Like they invented the story about all that kind of, it just raises a bunch of questions. But yeah, I think, seeing Jordan break down and obviously he's the one who's had more mental health issues and feeling like he's going crazy because he's been lied to and manipulated, I guess, or felt manipulated. Even though, of course, him keeping the secret is for the best of the family,
I mean, it makes sense. The reasonings that are given as to why he wouldn't tell his kids make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Until they needed to, don't say anything. While they initially assume the more athletic Jonathan is superpowered, it turns out that the loner Jordan, the loner Jordan, when he runs afoul of Sarah's boyfriend, Sean Smith. Because it turns out you shouldn't just kiss a girl that you've met in the last 24 hours without checking her relationship status.
Well, no, man, she was giving vibes.
She was giving vibes, It's like, no, yeah, revealing all the inner dark secrets. Like I tried to kill myself. Yeah, but also that's a weird, I tried to kill myself. Blah. I see you want me to kiss you.
It's a weird moment.
You're reading the signals wrong.
It was a weird moment, but I mean, I gotta be honest. Until the boyfriend showed up, I wouldn't have assumed that. I thought we were flirting for sure.
Mm. Meanwhile, Superman and General Sam Lane are dealing with a mysterious enemy who's sabotaging nuclear power plants so he can study how Superman uses his abilities. Superman loses a one-on-one fight with the man who uses powered exosuit that conceals his identity via lead lining. In the end, Clark and Lois decide to move into the Kent farm to allow Jordan privacy as he grows into his powers. The mysterious enemy is identified by his AI as Captain Luthor.
Yeah.
Again, kind of the antagonists not super interesting. Even from what I remember of the story, I think it kind of goes in a certain direction.
I just don't think it's interesting because they did this whole like I remember even watching the pilot for the first time, be like, it's like, oh, Captain Luthor. I'm like, you're not actually Luthor. This is a very obvious bait and switch.
Yes, absolutely. I do think the other interesting element of the show is the relationship between Clark and General Lane, who is obviously
usually
not father gear, but is kind of antagonistic. Yeah. But obviously they all have to live with each other and are in each other's lives.
It is better seeing. I enjoy seeing this version better than the when he's when Superman and Lois don't know each other, identity and all that sort of stuff. Usually he's portrayed more anti-Superman, I guess. So
yeah, so he's just trying to help however he can. So anything else that stood out from the pilot episode?
No, I think it's a very, very strong pilot as far as
and the rationale behind going back to Smallville, from Metropolis.
I mean, it makes sense, but also works for the TV show.
Cheaper. Yeah. All right, let's jump into the second episode, Heritage, also directed by Lee Toland Krieger and written by Todd Helbing. When Captain Luthor searches the globe for kryptonite, while Captain Luthor searches the globe for kryptonite, Clark takes Jordan to the Fortress of Solitude to meet a virtual version of Jor-El, who helps him learn Krypton's history. Who was Jor-El? Hang on. I knew it was somebody.
It's Superman's daddy.
I guess Big Fat. I thought it was a known, someone with ties.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
I didn't recognize him.
It just kind of looks like he fits. Anyway. Not important. Meanwhile, at Smallville High, Jonathan is relentlessly bullied by Sean and his friends on the school's football team. Lois questions Edge at a city council meeting about his plans for Smallville. Tests at the fortress reveal that Jordan's powers are temperamental and extremely limited, disappointing Clark. The Kents attend a barbecue at the Cushing's home, where Lois argues with Kyle over Edge's proposal. Which raises an interesting question, the Lana, Lois, Kyle, Clark kind of the two couples. They're kind of, obviously Lana still holds a flame for Clark. I think it's pretty obvious. And maybe there's a bit of I settled or I made the wrong choice kind of vibes around them.
Well, her husband's a Trump supporter is what I can gather. So
is so
he's got
clear.
A Confederate flag outside that doorstep. They just don't show it.
I don't know if he's that far, but he voted that way.
Yeah, there's the part.
Whatever it takes for temporary.
I enjoyed the part where they go to the barbecue and look outside and they're just Yahooing or whatever. It's just our tops.
Yeah. There's so I think that the dynamic between the two couples is quite an interesting element of the show. Sarah breaks up with Sean. No, that's the next episode. Sorry. Luthor attacks General Lane at the DOD and asks him to help destroy Superman before he can become a threat. General Lane reveals to Superman that he has been secretly stockpiling kryptonite. Which, I mean, he's not the worst person to be stockpiling to kryptonite, I guess, If he's on your side and he's keeping it all for himself, that's,
Sure.
I know you feel a little bit betrayed, but that you weren't told, but, it's better than one of your enemies stockpiling kryptonite. After Edge turns her expose on him into a puff piece, Lois quits the Daily Planet.
I did enjoy I enjoy this version of Lois, and I think our first real Lois-y sort of thing we get is obviously when she confronts Edge at the town hall meeting or whatever it was prior to this
with Morgan Edge.
That was good. And then here where she gives a big fuck you letter saying I quit. Good too.
Yeah, she's just walking through, which is so fitting with the monologue that the voiceover that they use from the opening of the episode, where it's like, "Oh, leaving someplace that you love," referring to Metropolis, and then later in the episode calling it back as being leaving a place that you love, being the Daily Planet when she quits. Really good. So yes, she quits the Daily Planet and joins the Smallville Gazette.
Yeah,
the one editor.
I really enjoy this character I don't remember if she was in the first episode, but quite enjoyed her in this episode. Just for the whole funny bit of the setup earlier, where it's like, if you really want to write anything for the Smallville Gazette, come by. I'm sure the editor will publish it. The bit here where it's like, oh, can I see it? I'm the editor, the janitor,
occasional plumber. Yeah,
good bit. Yeah.
At his base, Captain Luthor makes plans to build a new ship and armor. While continuing to search for kryptonite, a flashback to Luthor's world reveals that he is the last survivor of a military unit wiped out by an evil Superman.
Yeah, so he's from another universe.
Oh, he's from an alternate universe, Yeah.
So really, once they reveal that this show's in an alternate universe to the Arrowverse, it's an alternate universe to an alternate universe.
There's so many alternate universes.
Supergirl's an alternate universe.
Yeah.
All these characters in alternate universes. How they manage to cross over so many times is wild to me. How's that happen so much?
Yep. Anything else you took from this episode? Are you interested in continuing to watch at some point?
Well, no, because time's a fickle beast. But
time is
the main issue. I would, if time wasn't an issue, I'd happily keep watching it. Put it that way.
Yeah,
it's a very easy show to watch, I think. And
it is. I'm also tempted just to read what happens.
Yeah, I already did that, to be honest. I was watching this episode. I read synopsises for each season. Just because,
I'm like, I want to know this information, but I'm not willing to put in the time to extract it properly.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd happily sit down and watch all this because, I enjoy the DC CW shows mostly. And anytime I feel like they've overstayed their welcome, it's usually past 4 seasons, so can't go wrong here. But then at the same time, I watched all 10 seasons of Smallville, so I'm a big Superman TV fan. So,
question without notice: how do you feel about superheroes having kids? Is it irresponsible for them when they have a responsibility to society? They've forced themselves to become a person in society. Is it irresponsible for them to have children?
I think it's irresponsible for anyone to have children in this economy. You know what I mean?
Oh,
got him. Oh, you want another answer? Or
I don't know if you've got a more serious answer.
I don't think it's irresponsible. I do think some characters probably shouldn't have children. I don't know if Bruce Wayne should have really.
You shouldn't have, probably.
But Clark Kent, Superman. Sure.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it's interesting because it is a little bit selfish. But I guess when you're Superman and you could be saving anybody at any point, like any personal relationship or any time.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't stop.
Is a little bit selfish.
Helping. He's a shitty dad rather than a shitty superhero. That's an important thing. But
yeah, he's kind of has his priorities set.
Yeah, he has his priorities.
The world comes first. So which does make for interesting TV. So I'll give it that. Anything other thoughts on Superman and Lois?
No, weird number episodes.
How do you feel about the suit?
I like the suit. I don't know. Do you like the suit?
Yeah, I like the suit. I appreciated in the pilot where he's got the OG symbol on the chest. Obviously,
Throwback.
it's translated.
That one got wrecked. Yeah.
Okay. And the ridiculousness of him putting the cap back on the kid and then being blown off as he flies off. Yeah.
Good bit.
Yeah.
No, good. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Great. All right, let's know what you think of Superman and Lois. Do we need to commit to watching the show? Let us know on Blue Sky by finding us at explosioneric.com or find us on another social media at ExplosionPod. If you want to help us out here at All New DC Cast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, leave us 5 stars and clearly 5 stars, or just help build our show. And if you've enjoyed this episode, follow us with $1. Head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosionnetwork.com/supports. Thank you very much for listening. Join us next time for another All New DC Cast.